So, just finished a meeting with the Invest STL storytelling practice that I decided to join as a resident storyteller and partner with them on. And today's session, we were covering a whole lot of stuff, mainly collaging, different forms of visual art, contemporary art specifically. And then we went into agriculture and farming. And in the Black community, it is pretty stereotypical for a lot of us, at least in my life and in my experiences with family and just in general since I was a kid, being told you smell like outside, that's dirty, playing with dirt, being around dirt, bugs. I greatly disliked bugs since I was little, and I didn't realize how much those thoughts disrupted my spiritual life. I didn't realize how much those type of thoughts and attitudes and actions looking back have turned me away from even being interested in agriculture, even wanting to plant seeds and produce crops, my own fruit, vegetables, plants. And as I grow in my relationship with God, as I grow in my spirituality, as I go into these practices where a lot of people are, especially women, especially a lot of Black women that I meet, that are more in tune with nature, with Mother Nature. And I struggled with some of the practices that I see as I read more in God's word and different things. I'm seeing certain practices that or certain people that's given more hoodoo-esque like. So I appreciate how the practice today that the lady, I'm gonna call her Miss D, just for confidentiality purposes. Miss D was going over how this is not voodoo. It's very important for us to have a relationship with the elements. And even with the YouVersion Bible app that I love to do my guided scripture, guided prayers, different Bible plans and stuff on the go. Of course, always encourage people to have their physical Bibles. But with this one right here, I had to understand because I hear and experience and notice more and more people who bring up their ancestors, and a lot of people in the Black community bring up Africa. And I'm just going to say it. I do not identify as African. I don't. I am a Black American. I only know American customs. I have accepted and been raised in the United States. I've never even been to Africa. And a lot of things in African studies and a lot of stuff that I look at involving how different tribes work. I am blessed to be in the United States because I see there's a huge difference in the level of patriarchy throughout Africa in the different tribes and different practices and rituals and how women are treated in general from what I've seen and what I've read about, what I've studied. And of course, there's so much because they have hundreds and hundreds of tribes. So I'm not going to act as if I know every aspect of Africa, which is another reason why I don't want to claim that as my heritage. Even if hundreds of thousands of years ago, even if just hundreds of years ago, I've had family members that originate from Africa and different things like that. I don't know them. I don't connect with them. Just that's just me personally. And there's people I know whose families, they're second or third generation, and the kids that I've seen are like first generation Americans, different things like that. But they're raised in customs. They're raised to know their family's heritage, and they're raised not just with their American names, as they call them, but also their African names, their home names. My name is just LaCole Purley or LaCole Purlz Purley, since a lot of people in media spaces and college and different things like that, and a lot of my groups call me Purlz because that is my Radiance name. That's Live in Radiance, my other podcast and movement that I've started. That's what that's centered around. That's nickname, that's whatever. So these names have nothing to do with Africa. But back to the point of what I've discovered, it's a lot of that I'm navigating through with understanding, okay, what not just what's biblically as I go through this practice, but also what is something that I want to dive deeper and study for myself? What is something that I want to dive deeper and study? What are things that I'm going to have to unwire? Because this whole process has been me not just learning new things, but unlearning certain stuff. And that's what I was ending up talking with Miss D about before I left was me getting over and asking myself, because we made collages, we had these different magazines and markers, crayons, colored pencils, different things like that. And we were creating collages at the end, doing something artistic that is connecting us more to what we're doing in a creative space. That's what I love about the storytelling practice is that there's so many forms of media, there's so many different ways that we can express ourselves, that we can gain an understanding over what we were made to be, who we were made to be. That connects us to back to the whole ancestor piece. It's not that I want to disregard the people who are before us. This whole podcast right here, History and Me, is about understanding my family history, understanding Black history, understanding St. Louis history. And as I'm doing that, I'm wrestling with the, I would say the spiritual aspect of it all, of is this okay? Is this not? Is this something I actually want to do? Because even in the Bible, it states that there are other spirits. But if I believe that the only spirit that I am gravitating towards or that I really rely on is the Holy Spirit, and when I'm in some of these spiritual practices or these spiritual spaces where people are bringing up Yahweh, people are bringing up God, El Shaddai, different things like that, they're bringing in God's name, but then they say the word ancestors even more than God. And I'm not saying that it's in this practice specifically. It's just that's what it reminded me of when bringing up the ancestors, because some of us have that. So and when I say have that, I mean, of course, all of us have ancestors. We all have heritage. We all have a lineage that we come from, whether we know it or not. So that is the thought process that I'm looking at here and going through this practice, better understanding, because I do want to better understand how did we as a community get to this point? How did we as a society get to this point? How did the Black community get to this point? And we have to go back into our roots. We have to go back and understand. I'm just being completely transparent over some of the thoughts and some of the things that I'm struggling with on this journey. And I'm loving the struggles as well as the peace that's coming from, oh, I'm learning something new. I'm having these conversations. I'm having these engaging conversations that is needed, that we need to have, that we need to support, that we need to gravitate towards. I truly believe we need to gravitate towards these type of conversations with one another, with each other, with ourselves. Take some time to ourselves because during these practices, some of the guides that we have, we're sitting down and we take moments of, today we had a moment of stillness and it was a long moment. And I felt as if I was personally being called out. She was saying to everybody in the space, but one of the guides was telling us, focus on stillness. Pay attention to where your mind is going. Pay attention to the thoughts and the memories that surface. And as we're doing that, and we're having uh we have memory vessels, different things like that, and it's very personal in ways of that's part of honoring the past. That is part of honoring our family. I believe that. I believe that I am honoring my father, Lamont Purley, my late father who passed 12 years ago, and bringing up different things that's sparking memories, that's sparking. What brought my family together? What brought my family together? Discussing that, being honest with myself about that, that is part of understanding who you are as a person, is what brings your family together. Ask yourself that. What brings your family together? What brings you in congregation? What brings you in a space that is healing? And one of the memories that I thought of was the times where it was when my daddy was alive. I remember him, my uncles, my cousins playing basketball. That was a big thing. Basketball and Monopoly are two things that when I think of what brings the family together, especially the men together, it was that and of course barbecue. Those three things, barbecue or food in general, home cooked food specifically, because I got a lot of people in my family who know how to cook on both sides, mom's side and my daddy's side. I love that. That's why I, part of the reason why I've been struggling with gluttony all my life and still working on overcoming that to this day. Because the food be so good, but that's besides the point. See, I'm getting into it. That's why I've always called myself a hungry goofball since I was little. That's just, you know, that's just me. But those memories resurfaced. And I was thinking when we're making these collages, as we're bringing awareness to the issues at hand when it comes to today's time period, we're struggling with, and I say this in August of 2026. I was about to say 2016, dear Lord. In August of 2026, we are struggling with so much media coming in, so many videos coming in that I'm seeing pop up on my algorithm, being shoved in my face that the food supply is terrible, that what we're eating is killing us. And that is a huge issue in our health. Because one of the issues that I have with not just my family, but in a lot of Black families is the ease and amount and just how accepted it is for us to be unhealthy, how accepted it is for us to have poor blood circulation, poor hearts, poor livers, poor kidneys, dealing with failure and issues with our bodies. And the obesity levels are so high now that out of 2 to 3 kids that you see, teenagers, young adults, they're likely obese. I'm obese, overweight. And those effects have a lot to do with our health. It affects us eating too much and not exercising. It affects us eating all this processed foods, how easy it is for us to just eat out now and not cooking. And part of what we were talking about today was farming, agriculture, understanding how important it is for us to have these foods. So, and then instead of complaining about the food supplies, and that's what I was thinking, man, I complain about the food supplies and complain about what's out there, and then I'm thinking, okay, well, what are we going to do about it? What should we do to rectify what has happened to us in our communities? And as I'm reading some of these articles and going through these newspapers, and what I made my collage about, the question that kept resurfacing in my mind is, should I farm? And then there was this call to action that I wrote down because there was this one snippet that I put to my collage that was stop the mass food execution or stop the mass food outrage, or it was something like that. The amount of chemicals that's killing the soil, that's killing the grass, the pesticides, all the chemicals, the things that we're saying, oh, we need to do this in order to increase profits, you are detrimenting your own health by supporting that. We are supporting the downfall of our health, our kids' health, our grandkids' health, our families. We're having less and less happiness coursing through us, less and less wealth happening to us because wealth is health. It's not just about the monetary side of things. And I loved how part of our practice today was also talking about that. It was stated, and that hit my soul when she said, you should know your worth. You need to know what your work is worth. Know what you are worth. Don't just accept whatever put on the table. Make an offer. And there's going to be someone who will go, well, let's just add that to the budget. Be okay with with having stipends and then creating community agreements that's being passed out to send stipends out to different members and inviting collaboration and profits to be shared amongst the collective, essentially. And I love being in spaces like that. I love doing business in spaces that's talking about and that actually is sharing profits and sharing the wealth, sharing the money, because you're not going to find that in these corporations. More and more people are struggling today than ever before, not just with the food supplies, but also with income opportunities. And it's up to us to band together and allow each other's strengths and gifts to have and form collaborations to work together. And one of the collaborations and working together that I have seen and that I value more now than ever before are food markets, local food markets, farmers. And Miss D was sharing because she is a Black female farmer and the pushback that she's had from her family because it ties back into what I was so used to when I looked at nature, when I looked at being outside as, oh, you smell like outside, you're dirty, don't do that. That's not good for you. And me having that mindset, me having those mindsets is keeping me from better appreciating the blessings and the creations that God made. He provided us with grass. He provided us with these plants, with these seeds, with this soil, with water, with rivers. There is nothing wrong with being connected through your spirit in a spiritual sense to nature. Because I notice more and more, and part of my devotionals is coming in, and it's when it, because in my daily devotionals, there's a piece about honoring and praising God. And I make sure that I include praise even in times of struggle as I get connected, as I get better connected on my journey with understanding more about myself and history and just societal as well as cultural practices today that's affecting us, whether we know it or not, whether we accept it or not. And I had to accept that I need to pray more just in thanks. I need to be appreciative even in my darkest moments. I need to be appreciative of what I have, even if something else is taken away or I've been rejected in some way of something that I was looking forward to. And it was shared with us that we should do that at the river. We should do that in bodies of water. We should do that in practices and sharing the elements and how even not just in Christianity, but in other religious practices, in African practices in Brazil, or just different countries all over the world. There are certain guidelines and rules that you would see that's kind of universal. Appreciating the elements is a very common practice, whether you believe in God or you believe in your ancestors or you believe in other gods, whatever religious practices you have. Nature is very important. That was created by our Creator, whether you believe it or not, whether I believe it or not. That's something I have to accept. That's something that I should actually take praise in. I should take pride in. I should invest time to rest in nature, to appreciate what is out there and encourage people to either support, build relationships with farmers or grow their own farms. And then just a quick sidebar on that, there's also different tax breaks and tax benefits that goes into selling at least $1,000 worth of produce. And it doesn't have to just be produce as in what you would eat. It could be in worms, it could be six trees. Six trees. And it doesn't require as much land as people think. Because I'm in my brain and I was thinking, oh, I'm gonna have so and so much acres of land and all this other stuff in order to grow and produce. No, 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 no. You don't need too much. You just need condensed, good soil in a nice little area that you are taking care of, making sure it gets its light, making sure you take care of it. Those seeds will grow. And when those seeds grow, you can capitalize on this opportunity. And I'm just thinking to myself, man, because I take advantage of different tax breaks and tax benefits in business and my partnerships and different things like that. So that way I'm able to give more away to the tithes, to offers, offerings, to different charities, to different nonprofit organizations. Just I understand the importance of $25 here, $50 here, $100 here, $10 here, $5 here goes a long way in not just keeping everything that I make to myself. And I know a lot of people will hear that and I talk, I've even mentioned this to other Christians, that not everything that I do is given to a church. Not everything that I believe in is specifically and only in church. And there's nothing wrong with people who, when they serve, they only serve in the house of the Lord. There's nothing wrong with that. I'm serving in my communities. I'm serving in different spaces. I'm serving in conversations with individuals, with people who I know need it, with families who I know need it, and encourage and change so that way it's not just what I'm doing, it's what are we doing as a collective. That's what's really going to bring massive change. It has to start somewhere, yes, but letting people know that you're giving your offerings, God sees everything that you're doing. He's not only paying attention to you when you're in church, in the spaces like in the storytelling practice or in my own businesses, with my podcast, with everyone tuning in here. He's watching all of this. And I make sure that I have the right mindset in mind, that I'm doing the self-analysis and the different inspections to understand where do some of these thoughts come from? What thoughts am I actually having? Where did they come from? Do I want to continue having them or do I want to learn something new? Do I want to learn something else? So that's just another piece that comes involved in this. And I encourage all of us to pay attention and think about, should I become a farmer? Or should I at least support the local farming markets and produce areas and paying attention to who actually cares about the quality of the food that they're selling or the quality of the food that they are producing for us to eat? Because that is affecting our health. That's affecting our families. In the Black community, especially, I see, just in my personal experience, I see more of destructive destructive habits than quality ones. For example, I would quickly see in lots of spaces and lots of times people go for cakes and ice creams, milkshakes, soda, pop, all these other things before, hmm, let's have a fruit salad. Let's get this fruit bowl. We're gonna go ahead and make some cornbread and greens, collard greens, all that stuff. We're going to provide nourishment for our bodies. I see more snacks and candy being eaten and snacked on throughout the day than things that's actually supposed to replenish our strength, heal our bodies. I see more people going to vaccinations and pharmaceuticals and different drugs before what are some natural herbs and remedies that we should create. When I started focusing more on the natural herbs, remedies, and supplements, multivitamins, I noticed myself having better quality sleep, being able to stay asleep a lot longer, not being woken up in the middle of the night or different things like that, which is giving me more energy. I'm finding myself losing weight with less effort because I've eliminated a lot of those toxins from my diet, from my everyday life. And I don't want anyone tuning into this to think that this is condemnation or me condemning you. No, 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 no. This is about us honoring the past, understanding the present, and inspiring the future. Whether you live in St. Louis or not, whether you're black or not, whether you understand your own family history or not, whether you understand yourself or not. These type of conversations, these type of insights is going to be monumental to helping you live a better life, having a better lifestyle, having better relationships, your relationship with your creator, your relationship with yourself, and your relationship with other people. According to Dr. Gary Smalley, especially in his book, The DNA of Relationships, states that the quality of our life is centered around the quality of our relationships. The History of Me podcast is a journey of me gaining better relationships with myself, with my community, with my families, with the communities that I am growing, the communities I'm learning about, finding my place in this world, and hoping that everything that I discover can touch, inspire someone else. Thank you for tuning in and tuning in next time to the History of Me podcast with your host, LaCole Purlz Purley.